neurotic bosses, parent trapping, New York pizza, and yet. That's right, this week we are breaking down 2018 rom-com Set It Up with Zoe Deutsch and Glenn Powell, currently streaming on Netflix.
Welcome to the Rom-Com Rescue Podcast, a brand new podcast where we bring the love and life lessons from your favorite rom-coms. I'm Kira Sabin. I'm a healthy dating educator, a certified coach, and a positive psychology practitioner. But more importantly, I spend my days teaching the skills and mindsets of dating.
And I'm Dr. Isabel Morley. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist and an EFT certified couples therapist. And I help couples have the happiest, healthiest relationship possible. Join us weekly as we break down the best love lessons from your favorite rom-coms so we can all get into the best relationships possible. Because we believe that we create our own happily ever afters.
Well, hello, everybody. We are so happy you're here. We are back with a classic rom-com. I don't know if it's a classic. It's not that old. But I love this movie so much. Izzy had never seen it. We're talking about Set It Up, Netflix comedy from 2018. Izzy, let's get into it. And I guess maybe I should lead and say this is where my love for Glenn Powell started. I have watched it many times in a non-critical way. And so I was really excited to share this movie with Izzy. And it did not maybe go the way that I wanted, just as life doesn't. But
always.
Izzy, tell me what you thought.
Oh, Kira. I mean, and listen.
I'm just laughing already.
I love you so much. I trust your judgment so much. I went into this, maybe my expectations were too high. Maybe that was part of it. And I was in a bad mood when I first watched it, which I will admit to. Partly why we pushed this recording, because I didn't want to be unfair to it. I didn't like it. And at my first watch, I was like, oh, I don't like this. None of it is working for me. And you know what it was too? I just don't love Glenn Powell. And I thought he would get me in this because that's what got you into him. And he's just not for me. He's too preppy. He's too clean cut. There was one scene that I really liked in this movie with him when he was dancing with Taye Diggs. I know.
I don't know what to say.
But listen, I watched it a second time, which I couldn't even do for the Bridget Jones movie. I watched it a second time and liked it a ton more. I thought it was much more charming, much cuter. And I think I did a critical first watch and then a vibe second watch in the end. And I ended up really liking it and I would watch it again.
Well, that makes me a little happy because I do want to just say that this is 92% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
So maybe.
What's Crazy Stupid Love on Rotten Tomatoes, Kira?
You know what? Real time. Let's look it up.
Let's find out because we've decided that this might be your version of my obsession with Crazy Stupid Love that I refuse to look at critically because it's perfect.
Oh
no.
79%.
Really? 79?
Oh, wow. It looks like my movie is way better than your movie.
Is that how it's going to be today?
It might be a little bit. It might be a little bit. This is a perfect example of like blind spotting or just like we don't see our stuff. I talk about regularly, we do 2 watches and usually there's like kind of a vibe watch where I watch it and then I critically watch it where I pause it, I take notes, all of that kind of stuff. And I was vibe watching again. I'm like, I don't even know what we're going to talk about.
Stop it. Get out of here. All I could think was, I don't think I have enough time to write down all of the notes that I have on the movie before we talk about it.
But I want you to know that somewhere during that vibe watch, I don't remember, it was not that far in, so you don't have to worry my sanity. But probably somewhere along the vibe watch, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I might be seeing some stuff. I might be seeing some stuff that is not as healthy as I thought or not as cute and adorable and charming as I thought when I watched it. And so I do want you to know that the very first time I was like, oh my God, is this my crazy stupid love? And I texted you, is this my crazy stupid love?
And I was like, yes.
I was seeing bad behavior And I did not care.
Excusing it. I know. We'll see.
Did not care.
Rom-coms can do that to us. They can just be so wonderful and heartwarming that we're willing to overlook all this stuff. And that is the magic of them, that we don't want to deflate for anybody. But we do want to also make sure we're not bringing the wrong lessons into our actual lives. So I think it's good we'll talk about this. But first, we have questions. And these are interesting questions.
We sure do. I have a question for you first, which is, so the two main characters here, they meet because they are like executive assistants to two CEOs, high-powered, you know, pretty much assholes. And could you do that? Could you be like a 12 plus hours a day executive assistant to, you know, whether it's to climb the ladder, whether it's to get the experience, whether it's to whatever?
No.
Could you do that? Or could you have done it? I know that 51-year-old Kira would be like, oh, fuck no. By probably hour 1 or 2.
Yeah.
But 20-something Kira, she would have tried pretty hard for a while.
Really? I wouldn't.
Yeah.
There's no job that I want enough to be working that many hours and be treated that poorly. Like in grad school, you are working, you're doing your schoolwork, you're doing internships, you're doing a lot of unpaid hours, right? For years and years. Right. And but people treated me with respect,
I'm not a therapist, by the way. So because of those
it is a lot, but you don't get treated the way they were treated. And so it was all worth it. To have somebody speak to me like that and to be that inconsistent and blame me for things I didn't do, no. I couldn't do it, wouldn't do it, no.
And I will say that it's amazing to me, I feel like, even how quickly some of the culture shifts. Because this came out in 2018, and when I watched this, and by the way, I'm taking this on as this might be my shit. But when I watched this, I was like, oh, this is cute and fun. Right? Mm-hmm. Oh, the bosses are kind of jerks. And now I'm like, this is abusive behavior. Yeah, nobody should ever be in this kind of situation. Yeah. Bosses should not be treating people like this. They should be literally taken to HR. The things that they do and the ways that they act is, I realize, for movies, but I think probably not that far off some of the horror stories you kind of hear for assistants and personal assistants and executive assistants in Hollywood and New York and things like that. So I don't think it's completely, but man, yeah, I think I would have tried the right job because I would have been convinced in my 20s that, you know,
it was worth it. You just put in the hours. Wait, so can I ask you because this is a related question that I had for you?
Yeah.
If you had a personal assistant, what do you think is the most personal thing that you would feel comfortable asking them to do for you? Because we see them asking anything and everything of these people. Like where would what's the most personal thing that you would ask a PA to do for you?
Right now, literally like food and drink. That's it. Like I wouldn't do that. I would never expect somebody just because I am paying them. And it doesn't even sound like very well, right? I'm stealing toilet paper from the office. So I would not. I just have no interest, nor would I expect that from somebody else, no matter what I was paying them, no matter what, you know. Like,
yeah. I think that makes sense.
Right? I would be like, hey, can you, go get me a coffee or my favorite breakfast sandwich or something like that. But it's not who I want to be. And it's not yet.
Yeah, agreed.
That was deep, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's where I'm at today. I have another question for you. Have you ever set somebody up? And have you ever set somebody up, most importantly, and they ended up staying together?
Ooh, Kira,
I know. It's a fun question.
That is one. I have set 2 people up.
Oh.
One didn't work out. They dated for a while and then broke up. One got married, has 2 kids together.
Look at that. Do you take any credit for it?
I mean, personally, I do. I didn't. I went to their wedding and they didn't mention that I was the one who set them up and introduced them. And I was like, I feel like I should have had maybe like my picture on the wall or something. Just, just saying. But I mean, when I got married, we didn't credit who kind of set us up either. Right. It's not an important part of your story when it's your relationship. But I was very proud of myself. Yes, it was incredibly successful. They're very happy together. So that's my claim to fame. Have you set people up?
Well, I mean, first of all, I have a lot of so success stories for my clients, right? So I have literally hundreds at this point, maybe more, of, people who have worked with me and gotten in relationships and are happy and good relationships and healthy relationships, all that stuff. But I don't think I have, but I have set up adjacent, meaning like in my 20s, I used to throw really fun theme parties, and there was a couple, two people who were friends of friends. I did not know either of them. They met at my party and got married, have kids. They still are together. She was a good friend of my friend Eric's. And so I actually was his plus one at their wedding. And I was a little bit like waiting for a little of a shout out, like, oh, hey, there's
But you don't get one.
Party. Nothing,
no,
never.
Because it's not important to the people's story.
What's wrong with that?
I don't know.
They're not making us a center part of their day. So weird.
We should have been probably, officiating the weddings at the very least. Maybe some kind of shrine where people could give offerings to us and ask us to set them up if they were single. All sorts of things could have happened. Missed opportunities.
I will say, because I'm asked this question, should I have my friends set me up? I'm really much more into like parties or social situations where people can maybe connect and have a nice conversation and make that decision themselves, because I just think it's going to create much better results. Like everything that I coach or teach on is like, how do we get the best result possible, right? How do we get to love?
I'm all for setting people up, though. I'm all for it. Yes.
I think it's sticky and can get weird and
It depends on how it's handled and people's maturity, but it's nice to, sort of like why Hinge is nice, is you have people in common. So there's a level of, you can't be a total dick. You're not going to ghost that person because that reflects badly on you and your relationship with or it should, on the other people involved in this. And you have a little assurance. This isn't some rando. They're not catfishing you. This is a known person within your sort of social circle. So I like that part of it. All right, let me ask you a question that's going to change the world, Kira.
Okay.
How do you feel about kiss cams?
I love that you asked this question. I did look at it right before we went on to think about it, because it's one of those things that I just have not really thought about, right? And honestly, it is pretty gross for us to ask people to kiss someone they don't know.
Assume their sexual orientation. Right. I think that's problematic too.
So I actually have a quick and easy solution that I want all of the sports people to hear in the world, which is
great
hug cams. Because hugs are nice, right? Everybody needs a hug. In case people don't know, you actually need 12 hugs a day for growth, 8 for maintenance, and 4 for survival. So everybody could use a hug. And I think that a hug cam, or even just a side hug cam, is a much kinder, more thoughtful to people's stuff, way, because who knows what kind of fights that started.
What I know, I know. I always wonder, what if they put it on people who aren't a couple?
Exactly, and their partners at home watching, going, "I'm sorry, what?
You had to because you were on camera, so you had to." Yeah, I agree. I'm torn because I also think they're super cute. I love when people are.
I know.
That part of it, but I think maybe there should be an indicator that you're interested in being on the kiss cam. Like you can hold up a sign or something so that you're, I'm okay with it. Yeah.
And so let's get into, what do we think worked? What do we think didn't? What were the good love lessons? What were the bad love lessons? Why don't you just come on out and tell me one of your favorite love lessons, good or bad?
I just love you so much, and I want to be respectful of your love for this movie.
I can take it in.
Okay.
I can take it in. I can't say I won't react, but I can take it in.
Rick is the obvious problem. He is obviously the least healed, most problematic person. And Charlie is a really big fucking problem.
I know.
And he's, charming, and that makes it worse to me that he's charming, because he wants to be Rick, and he has been aspiring to be this cutthroat, financially successful guy. He cares so much about his image and reputation. Right. He's hooking up with this girl who couldn't care less about him just because she's pretty and it looks good.
I completely agree with you. In my critical rewatch, I had to see and ask myself a little bit of like, why am I okay with this? Why am I okay with this behavior, Kira? Why I think the first 5 times I watched this, why did I think it was cute and attractive and charming? because honestly, I did write here he was kind of quick to make little mean quips, and they're funny but mean, right? Quick to tear people down, and is really not that nice to Harper in their in the first, I don't know, half of their friendship or whatever we want to call it. So I did have to check myself a little bit. And so it's not even my love for Glenn Powell. I just really like the two of them together. I love really quick, witty banter, which is what they do. That is what turns me the fuck on. Like witty banter. If I can go back and forth with somebody, like we're making out in the back, like in about a half hour, right?
Yeah. Yes.
That was
very
my
attractive
20s and most of my 30s. So, but witty banter and being a dick, two different things.
Yes. Yeah.
You're right. You're absolutely right. He is not actually healthy. He should not have ended up with a girl. I'm just going to say it. Both of them, I think, were pretty young and immature, but he has a shit ton of work to do before he is ready because he is so emotionally unavailable and obviously avoidant. Yeah, that I can't ignore it.
I will give this to you. However, we see growth from him, which we don't always see in these movies. We see him realize at this fancy dinner with the girl that doesn't like him that he's actually not happy, that being in this fancy restaurant and paying $70 for a steak is not what he thought it would feel like, and that he has no connection to her. She's just pretty and a nice symbol for him. And we see him make a good choice and, end that relationship and go save Kristen from marrying somebody who doesn't actually want to be with her. So we see that, and I love that, but he has a long journey ahead before I feel like I'm convinced that he's actually shifted his values enough to be with Harper.
Absolutely, because I was just going to say, look at me doing the right thing here. Oh, what I'm saying is that let's also be aware that one moment or one or two moments is probably not going to fully shift somebody, their values, how they've been living their life, probably their whole life.
Yeah, it's a great start.
And I'm always a little frustrated when we have this thing changed and now this person's changed. And
I'm a new person.
Average situation, that is not true at all. I was literally watching something last night. In the beginning, we saw a dad was pressuring a dick to his son about sports and stuff. And by the end, I'm going to be more supportive and just be here. And I was like, I wish that was true. I wish it was that easy. But for people to truly change their thought patterns, their behaviors, their mindsets,
a long time.
That takes work. And so really, I think Charlie's got a shit ton of work before he is deserving of any relationship, unfortunately, because he is going to probably put his work before everything and everyone.
Yes.
Period. And we can't be with people who put work before everything
us.
And everyone.
He just wasn't that empathic either. He didn't feel badly for people. Even the intern, he got fired, essentially. He just showed no empathy.
Until Harper kind of held up a mirror and said, is this really the life you want? Is this really the job? I mean, that's a value. And you want to know that value of the person you're dating or the partner that you're taking on, right? Because that's not going to be a value that's really leaning into a healthy relationship.
But you know what it was with him? This is when I felt like I couldn't get on board. It's after he's had his epiphany, he's made a good choice to finally tell Kirsten the truth. And then Rick shows up at his apartment and is like, I want Kiki back. I don't know. Here are my questions about her. What's her favorite? Yada, yada, yada. Which I take issue with anyway. I don't think that a happy marriage is dependent on knowing the other person's favorite anything. Also, favorites change depending on context over time.
Right.
Who cares? Not important. But he says he'll send him the file he has on Kiki, which feels enabling. What I wanted him to say was like, no, if you want your wife back, how about you go talk to her and you ask Kiki what her favorite meal is? So it felt like he was just sort of
shortcutting.
Yes. And I was like, no.
He was looking for the easy way to not make himself vulnerable or uncomfortable or humble himself enough to say, I don't actually know
these things
what
about
you like, what you prefer. And I want to know you well enough so I can love you and be a partner in this relationship.
Yes.
So you're absolutely right. I didn't think about it. As soon as you were saying it, I was like, yep, that should have been his work. He is still looking for ways, Rick is, even if we think he's had like a change of heart, he's still looking for shortcuts to not make himself uncomfortable, which I can promise you is going to very quickly show up in that next relationship. We see that, I'm going to bring it up, with that whole ridiculous situation where, first of all, this guy's supposed to be like billionaire level, right? They say one of the most successful VCs, like
Ever.
venture capitalists ever, right? So you're telling me he has never been to a Korean fucking barbecue?
This is what sticks out as unrealistic about this entire
Yes,
movie.
that's the only
Nothing
thing.
else.
That's the only thing that sticks out. I'm glad we're
Yeah.
on the same page about that.
Everything else was realistic.
But you want to know about red flags because, gosh, how hot is Taye Diggs? He's successful. He's rich. But boy, is he a dick in this. He
really
such
is.
a jerk. He has no emotional regulation. Throwing things, he like destroys his computer, doesn't even apologize. He's like, yeah, okay, that's my laptop.
He destroys his own kid's science project that he made his assistant make for his kid.
Yeah, but this whole story of she takes him to Korean barbecue and they serve the meat, which you're supposed to cook on the barbecue because that's part of what Korean barbecue is. I love interactive food experiences, so big fan. And he starts eating the meat raw, which makes him sick because it's not really supposed to be eaten raw. And he ends up vomiting and then blaming
her.
So that because his pride is dinged or he looked vulnerable in front of somebody. And if somebody isn't willing to do that and they're trying to get to know you and they're trying to tell you they like you, take notice.
Yeah.
Because they're going to never be wrong in your relationship. Guess who's always going to be wrong in your relationship? You. Right? And it is such unhealthy behavior. But we look from the outside. This guy looks like, wow, he's successful. He's rich. He's handsome. He's all these things. He is an abusive dick. And I can guarantee he probably treats his girlfriends, his wives, and his kids the exact same way.
Should we get into another problem that is not addressed in this at all?
I'm sure we will.
He's not divorced. He got served with divorce papers at the beginning of the film. Divorces take a year. They take a long time.
I guess they don't when you're really rich, maybe.
No,
I don't know.
Then they take even longer.
Ridiculous.
Even with a prenup, they can be even longer as your fancy lawyers that you are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on are negotiating how you split your assets. In no world is he divorced. He gets engaged. His ex-wife is getting married. I was like, wait.
Yeah.
What's happening here?
And I mean, that's what I even think, like, maybe he's going through the ceremony, so it's not even legal, just so he can beat Kiki to the altar, his ex.
Sure.
But I think Rick is the exact person to stay away from. Rick is the exact person that I wish, unfortunately, when you are that rich and successful, people don't call you out on your shitty behavior.
Yeah.
And you become lonely. I mean, like,
that's who Charlie wants to be. He wants to be the guy that's rich enough.
Which is a problem.
Yeah.
I was going to say, I love Pete Davidson in this.
Okay.
Pete Davidson as a gay middle school teacher is probably my favorite Pete Davidson I have ever seen. And I am a big SNL fan. So, I mean, I've been watching Pete Davidson for years. He's shown up in even a few of our other rom-coms.
Yeah.
But
he's so funny
in this.
I got to say, that I love Pete Davidson.
Made the movie.
Did I tell you? Have I told you? This is a little side note. That Dream Izzy, when I'm unconscious and sleeping, Dream Izzy has, ego through the roof. She is as confident as they come. Dream Izzy, a while back when Pete Davidson and Kim Kardashian were dating, Dream Izzy split them up and Pete Davidson started dating Dream Izzy. I woke up and I was like, wow. That is how I feel about myself when I'm unconscious. And I wish I could carry that over into my living world. But there's something very appealing about Pete Davidson. I don't know what it is. He's funny. He's got this like offbeat way of him. I liked him 1,000 times more than Charlie in this.
And I think that's fair. I think I liked him 1,000 times more than Charlie in this, if I'm being critical and honest about this, right?
Yeah.
He's a lot more fun. He's a lot more healthy. He calls him out. I love when he asks him, like, are you still working for this guy? And nope. And he like
dumps the drink all over him.
I know. I'm like, everybody needs that friend, man. Everybody needs a gay middle school teaching Pete Davidson. Personally, but that was actually one of my favorite characters in this. I also liked Mike and Becca, so her roommate and best friend. I just thought, for considering that I think we're supposed to think they're in their mid-20s, they were really pretty mature and laid back and casual about their past. They laugh together, they laugh at each other in really positive ways. So that felt almost unrealistic to me for that level of maturity at that age, but I'm sure it could exist somewhere. But I actually really thought that if there was a relationship to emulate, that would probably be the one, right? It wouldn't be anybody else's in this whatsoever. If there is one takeaway I would love people to take away from this, is that I don't care how attractive people are. I don't care how quick the connection is. I don't care how fast it feels like you're falling in love. If somebody wants to marry you in less than a month,
don't do it.
Like,
no need to do it.
Red flag, right?
I know.
And we as a society teach people, oh my God, that's what real love is. That
if
means
it's your soulmate.
That means it's your one. I can't say that
Maybe
enough.
it's love bombing.
It is probably love bombing, because if you're healthy, you take things slow. You realize it takes a while to get to know somebody. You realize you're not going to know right away. That is the healthy way to approach relationships. I mean, Kirsten doesn't even know what's going on, but she should have been,
alerted
being such as a successful and smart woman, she should have been, I'll just say, a little smarter to be like, I'm sorry, we literally just met. You want to,
and you're a little volatile, so
right, and you're and you are
hot and cold,
right, hot and cold. So we're gonna get married.
Well, so
really?
Can we talk about Kirsten, because I had a lot of thoughts about her.
Okay,
I thought, and maybe you'll take issue with this, I thought she was ready for a relationship to the extent that her life had room for it. I felt sad for her. She is clearly successful, and that has made it hard to date. She's picking people who are intimidated by her success or her competitiveness. She isn't participating in her personal life. She's not going to weddings and baby showers until she gets engaged. And then she says yes to a baby shower because she says, I'll finally have something to talk about. And for that, to me, that meant something that other people will care about talking about, because they don't care about hearing about my work and about what stories I'm uncovering. People want to talk about relationships and babies and all of those personal life milestones. So I didn't see her as like heartless, cold, hates her friends. I saw her as felt excluded from the conversation because she wasn't having the same life as them. And when she had the opportunity to share something with them, and she was still kind of a bitch about when I don't want to talk about people's nipples changing so much. She still is harsh, absolutely. But I saw her as somebody who just...
I love the differences in us. Dr. Izzy, whenever I bring out the doctor, the question
called out.
So are you telling me that Kirsten feels emotionally regulated to you for a relationship? Are you telling me that she seems physically available enough for a relationship with her work schedule and just the amount of stress? Are you telling me that she feels like she is willing to be vulnerable enough to let down her wall enough to let somebody who is not just what looks like a perfect match of her in?
No. So I don't know if that's true. I don't know if she's willing to date somebody who doesn't look right. I think that's true. I will say there are people who have these kind of demanding careers and they want that success, and they will not be as physically available in their relationship. And there are people who are okay with that. And I don't think we should say that if you're this successful and your job is this demanding, you don't get to be in a relationship. You do. You have to find somebody who's okay with it, who's okay taking on the majority of your personal life tasks, and who will take whatever time they can get and build out their own life. And I think she's probably finding people like Rick, who are also very busy, work a lot. And that's actually not a good combination. You need somebody who's going to balance you and not drive that up and compete.
And that's exactly what they did, right? They were competing with each other on some level, which created an instant power struggle that's very hard to get out of. I'm just going to say that for me, I completely agree, because I think the best thing about relationships in 2025 is we get to kind of choose what they look like. We get to choose how much time we spend, how much energy we give, and that can look different for different people and where they are in their life. You are 100% right. I wish we actually thought and agreed on that more. Like, the only two people that have to be okay with your relationship are the two people who are in the relationship. I do think that the reason why Rick seems great to her is because I do feel that she's pretty physically and emotionally unavailable. I think that there's some work there for her to do, because I think the people that she's going to continue choosing are not going to be actually great for her.
I don't know I feel like she just needed someone, and that partly why it worked was that he saw her. He appreciated the things about her that other people overlook, that her friends don't care about, right? And he was validating the parts of herself that she really appreciated and felt like other people didn't appreciate. It was all fake because he was being fed lines.
Fake. Right, yeah.
But if she found somebody who met her there and saw and accepted her, which is a universal human need to be seen and accepted as we are, I think she could have gotten there. I don't have blinders for her, and I'm sure that I'm exactly right.
I love the characters that you hold on to and stick up for versus me. This is so fascinating.
I know.
The best part about life at this point in my life is to be able to be in a healthy enough place to be able to see other people like and where they're at and like not really judge. I just think it's hilarious because there's always not always, but there's usually like one slightly avoidant,
female character,
hyper independent character.
Yep. Doing her best, Kira.
Doing her best. That you're always like, I think we need to give them a break. And I'm like, I think there's more work there to do.
If you say Cressida, I swear to God.
I mean, I don't think I had to say it. So I feel like in my spare time when I'm bored, I might just start creating in our next movies. I might just writing down,
predicting.
Here's the character who I think, maybe I should start writing in an envelope and we will bring it up on the podcast.
Let's do this for each other. I think that's such a good idea.
Oh my God.
Such a good idea.
We're going to do, we're going to do mind reading and we're going to be like, this is one thing that I think this person's going to say, and we won't put it on our notes or anything. Yes,
well,
for sure.
Harper is kind of that for you because I found Harper to be a little too manic pixie dream girl.
Where I felt she's ADHD, which is exactly what I am. So I'm like finally a character that keeps up with my brain and the way I do things. So it's hilarious because I literally now know enough about ADHD that watching it this time around, within 5 minutes, I was like, oh, she kind of tracks as somebody with ADHD.
Yeah,
right.
Does.
And I never noticed that before. And I think that's why I like her character so much. I think because I liked her character, I liked the chemistry between them. And you did not. So
I know.
That's okay. That's totally okay. What were some of our best and worst lines here?
Okay.
Because I did feel that the script was fun. I thought there were some really good like quote moments nuggets. That were like, that's really, nuggets. But I think I can see your overall some problematic behavior.
But there were nuggets. I mean, at the engagement party for Mike and Becca, I loved we like because we love despite. Right. I think that's actually a beautiful message because it's easy to like people. The infatuation, the lust phase is all rose-tinted glasses. You see this different, perfect version of them. And when you get to know them enough to love them, you see the harder parts of them, Right. And loving means seeing all of someone and accepting all the good and the bad, whatever it is, and still loving them and wanting to be with them. So I was all on board for that message.
I love it too. Right? And I think to defend myself, not that I need to justify myself, I think one of the reasons that I like this movie so much is in 2018 when it came out, it was pretty forward thinking. The fact that there were some of these messages like we like because we love despite or and yet, where now 7 years later, it already feels a little dated. It already feels a little like, oh yeah, they had a couple good things, but not really. But I think at the time when it first came out, I was like, wow, this is smart and it's pretty emotionally intelligent and the characters are fun and witty. But I do see everything you're saying. And I also agree with it, except for the Kirsten part. But that's cool. That's cool.
Wow. The one part that I have that overly forgiving perspective is the one you can't take in.
If you're not watching the videos of how ridiculous we are recording this, you guys are missing out.
I want to point out which quote I think you should say, which is right above the one I selected, which is meaningful and heartfelt. What was a quote that you thought was really powerful from this?
I can wake you up with my penis. For some reason, every time that scene comes on, I just think it's so funny. And then like how the homeless guy looks at him and goes, you can wake me up with your penis. And I just don't know why. It feels very 20-something guy. Okay. Yeah. Shit, you're in bed. Ooh, true, but I could be there. I could wake you up with my
Which
penis,
anyone listening, that doesn't sound like a good time. I don't want anyone
it's
to.
not.
That's not something that women
No,
want. Just for the
it's
record.
not. It's not. I just laugh every time. And I also liked that there's some really good growth mindset that her roommate and best friend kind of yelled at her, gave her like a come to Jesus
Wake up.
moment of wake up. Like, if you want to write something bad, your first draft is never going to be that good. That is
Yes.
part of the process. And, you know, and she gets there. So I loved that growth mindset moment, right? Where
Yeah.
it took her a while, but when she realized that she was willing to do it badly, she was able to get there to the good. And, you know, I really suffered
Yeah.
from a fixed mindset for a really, really long time. So I loved that. But Pete Davidson, clearly the coolest character in this. I do love it one point when she's talking about golf guy and everything. And he's perfect. I think your bar for perfect is really low. And I have to tell my clients that a lot.
Yeah,
Like,
he's not perfect.
oh, because I'll be like, what do you feel like you need or are looking for? And then I was like, okay, and now let's raise that up about 30,000 times more, right? Because what actually is going to get you love in a healthy relationship can't be that low.
Yeah.
Right. So now I'm going to ask you, if they were our clients, what would we do?
I mean, which one? Rick, I don't think I could see. I think he needs a different kind of help, and I don't think he would seek help in the first place. So let's just cross
He
him
might need like an ashram for 5 years, like in
he needs
India.
a full reset.
He sure does. He sure does.
I mean, Charlie, I think, is a great candidate for therapy.
Sure.
He needs to do some work around his values. I think he does not know what actually matters to him. He knows what he thinks matters, which is money and success and fame. And now he's opening his eyes to other things being more important, but he does not have his feet on the ground yet. So I think he needs to do a lot of self-exploration with that, a little empathy building for other people and how he affects them, and just some psycho ed on what it means to be like a good person in a relationship. I think he could work on.
I completely agree. He needs a ton of therapy. I don't think that if we talk about if they're going to make it, I mean, to me, both of them are really just kind of young in this. You know, I think that they would have a really fun relationship this summer and have a great time together. But I really think until he gets some pretty big therapy, this isn't going to really go anywhere. That's just the honesty, whether I like this movie or not. And I think it's cute. I think that there is kind of too much work to do for them to make it at this moment.
Yes, I can see the future.
All things are possible, right? All things are possible. Surprisingly, I can see Charlie. I can even see Glenn Powell in this, whatever.
Yeah.
But Harper seems to be my Cal or whatever it is, right? Because I'm like, I don't know. She's just adorable. She's just trying. She's young. She's fine. Because I probably just see myself in her. Like, I just relate to her. So for me, I do think that there would be potential to make it, but there'd be some need for work and maybe just a little growing up and things like that.
They are young. I could see them working out. They'd have to mature a little bit, but I could see it.
So I do have some quick trivia, if that's okay.
Yes.
So why I think one of the reasons I like Glenn Powell so much is that if you follow him on Instagram, he's really close to his family. So his family comes along to all the awards. His grandma was actually in the crowd at the Yankees game, so he'll get them kind of in the background a lot, you know, and take his sister to events and his mom. So he's just kind of like that kind of guy, which I like. And also, the initial idea for the premise of this film was based on the film producer's actual real-life attempt to set up her boss with the boss of another assistant that she had a crush on. So it actually was kind of based in some reality. And then I do like when we find this, that Emilia Clarke from Game of Thrones was actually attached to this first. And then she couldn't do it because she was in Solo, which is a Star Wars movie. And then Zac Efron was the producer's first choice for Charlie, which
that would have been a very different
way
film.
Different, right?
Yeah.
Way different.
Wow.
And then Zoe Deutsch was not even considered for Harper until Glenn Powell recommended her to the creators because they worked together on Everybody Wants Some. But I did like their chemistry. I know that you maybe were like not into it, but their chemistry for me, what made this, like I wanted them to work out because of the chemistry, whether I think they will or not. What are our ratings? What are the tacos? I'm pretty sure that we probably wrote the exact same thing, right?
I am floored to see this.
I'll be honest, I did that for your reaction. I'm not proud, but I was kind of like, what do I critically think about this? And then what am I going to put just to make Izzy laugh? So I put 5 and 5, but I don't actually agree with this. I will say maybe 4 for overall tacos, just because I really think this is a fun movie and does have some definite nuggets that we can learn from. And then probably love lessons for me would be really 3. Yeah. But I just put in the 5s because...
Oh, man. When I saw that, oh, man. So, I mean, our actual tacos are closely aligned compared to what I'm seeing here. I gave it a 4 overall because I came around on the second watch. I think that I could find myself watching it again, enjoying it, and Harper grew on me a little bit. Charlie grew on me a little bit. Love Lessons, I gave it 2, and I feel like that's fair. I feel like it didn't have some of the glaring rom-com issues of like really toxic stuff or like we're soulmates and we can overcome anything. So I loved that part of it, but not a lot of good lessons were being taught. It was a lot of don't do this. This is a good example of what not to do.
We had a lot of really flawed characters kind of being sold to us as not flawed almost, right? And that's where I'm okay with bad actions as long as we acknowledge that was a bad action. Yeah. Right? And I don't necessarily know that was true here.
But you know what it was too? Kirsten and Rick were like a big, big, big part of the movie. Their romance was equal to the other characters, and theirs was so bad, so problematic. I feel like it overshadowed any of the other smaller good lessons.
It's absolutely true. Like, really, on some ways, Harper and Charlie were the secondary romance or relationship in this. To me, though, that's kind of a gift for us because we get to talk about multiple relationships then. Yeah. And that always feels like just a better episode for everybody. But guys, that's a wrap on this episode of Rom-Com Rescue. We have laughed, we've analyzed, we've clearly shared how great of a movie this is, at least one of us, and we've uncovered the real-life love lessons behind the romance.
Now it's your turn. Tell us what you think. Do you agree with Kira and think this rom-com relationship is total goals, or with me
of course you do.
That it was a total disaster?
Do you mean the 92% on Rotten Tomatoes? I mean, it's certified fresh, but what else? Go ahead.
You can vote in our Instagram polls and DM us your hot takes. Kira in particular would love your support.
I would love it. I'm like campaigning like Leslie Knope over here. Make sure you follow us, you subscribe, and you leave a review. And by the way, guys, we now have a new assistant who's going to be getting our stuff out there quicker and better and more often. So be watching for us, definitely on Instagram and all of our other places. Subscribe, leave a review if you love what we do. It helps us bring more rom-com magic and real conversation about love your way. Because at the end of the day,
we believe that we create our own happily ever afters. And we love despite.
Ta-da!
Da-da-da-da!